something to say. Welcome back, everybody. We have a new guest for Unfiltered, something that you wouldn't expect to see on my show, but I'm excited because I have a lot of questions that I hope will be answered, and I'm pretty sure questions will lead on to other questions, so I'll be a little more educated. Maybe I'll be a little smarter, but guaranteed everybody watching is going to be a little bit wiser, or they will at least be told what to do. But let's welcome relationship coach, Channa Bromley. What up, girl?
Hi.
Hey, how are you? It's been a minute.
It's been a few.
Whew. And I mean, you've been on your North Star doing what you've been doing the whole time. I'm still doing what I've been doing the whole time, but your dynamic has changed a little bit. But
Just a little bit.
But let's talk about you a little bit. So as you start talking about facts and what people should do and shouldn't do, they should actually know how educated you are instead of just like I call it, an information regurgitator on the world of social media, where you ask somebody, what does that mean? Like, I don't know. I just saw him post it and he's got a lot of followers, so it's got to be true. And then they post something for themselves. They're like, oh, it's not true. Don't believe anything on Instagram. It's all filtered. But today, we're unfiltered. So talk to me. You've been in the relationship world for a while now. So talk us down the path of what got you to where you are here today.
Yeah, so 15 years now I've been in the relationship industry. I started out in holistic health when I met you, competing in fitness. And it always felt like something was just a little bit missing for me. I felt with the holistic health clients, and especially when I was competing in fitness, I was getting a lot of clients looking to attain a look versus looking to attain a health state. And I decided to flip the script a little bit. Having a think one day, and my mom, when I was little, she was this vibrant woman who taught jazzercise and full of life, and she started choosing the wrong relationships. And over time, she became obese with sleep apnea and diabetes and so many other health issues. And I realized what an impact your relationships have on your health. And I'm actually named after a romance novel. So I decided, why don't I take a different spin at this? So I started educating myself and taking courses and diplomas and degrees in coaching and relationships and psychology. And now as a relationship coach, I'm able to do total transformation on the emotional and the spiritual and the mental levels instead.
So is this where you always thought you would end up? Like, as you're going to school, and like you said, you're taking psychology, and when they do the whole thing, this is what I'm going to be when I grow up. Same thing for me. Like, the fitness world is going to be a 6-month job turned into 20 plus. Is this kind of where you saw yourself, or where you thought you would be able to help the people the most?
It's funny. I always knew I wanted to be a coach. Like, I've always been trying to make plans and help people with whatever I thought that they needed help with. And I look back now at the things that I was really obsessed with as a kid and see how it's really come full circle. Some things that I even forgot about for a long time, just like metaphysical and spiritual counseling that I was so engrossed in as a little kid and a teenager, and sort of put it on the back burner for a long time. So in a way, it's very innate that I'm exactly where I've always supposed to have been, but I think I got deterred a little bit along the way.
Yeah, it's kind of neat where, it's in life when you kind of look back and certain steps that don't make sense at that time. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, I've had a few of those eureka moments lately where you're like, oh, so everything was kind of leading you to everything kind of ties together. And it's kind of neat where I don't know if people hit a point in their phase in their life where they don't ever get that feeling, that they just keep on missing their path. But it is neat. Like you said, it all comes full circle, and you are exactly where you need to be, and you're able to do what you want to do. But I have some questions for you.
Oh, good.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Okay, don't forget, this is unfiltered, so don't give us none of the lollipop answers. I don't want any of this world peace junk. Just tell it how it is, and we're going to keep it real.
You got it.
Are you ready for this challenge?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, a relationship coach. Now, not a lot of people are going to understand the difference of terminology. So we have a matchmaker, We have
Yeah.
a counselor. We have counselors of many different variations, and we
Yeah.
have a relationship coach.
Mhm.
Is there a difference, or is it just a term of fancy terms?
Oh my gosh, huge difference. Okay, so let's start with coach and counselor. Counselors, therapy, psychologists, they're going to help you understand why you feel certain ways. That way you can be ideally empowered to make your own decisions moving forward to reach your goals. A coach does all of that too, but then we give actionable advice. So it's like, let's say we have a track athlete, and track athlete wants to win the 100 meters at the Olympics. If they went to a psychologist, the psychologist would talk about what fears and insecurities do you have, what cognitive blockages do you have that could prevent you from winning that race. Where a coach does that, but then they also develop a training schedule and they evaluate the progress and they readapt to make sure that their client is on track to reaching that goal. So it's about a step further. Coaches do not, though, identify personality disorders or mental issues. Matchmaking is really just doing it all for somebody in terms of finding love. So when I was matchmaking, coaching was mandatory, but that's not the case with a lot of matchmakers. And that's a problem because most of the time we are not successful in our relationships because we have some things that we need to work through. So it doesn't matter who you introduce somebody to if you haven't done the work and you're not emotionally ready, if your limiting beliefs haven't been busted through, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be successful. So there really needs to be a combination of it all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, because you started out as a matchmaker and now you're going into like relationship coach. So do you find that you're kind of reaching a little bit of, into your psychology, a little bit of the matchmaking, what you learned, and then, like you said, creating a program for someone to follow in order for them to reach whatever their goal may be in a line of a relationship?
Yeah, I was finding with the matchmaking, it had a very low level of success because you just weren't helping people where they needed to be helped. It's like they say you can give somebody a fish or teach them how to fish. So the latter
Oh,
is.
snap, we're going back to the old school. Okay. Okay, I'm following. We're good. Okay, we're good. So the whole matchmaking thing, like you see all these ads and you see, everyone saying, how did you guys meet? And then even like social media is a form of matchmaking, whether it be for a long-term matchmake or a short-term matchmake. So do you find a lot of people are getting confused on what you do versus what they need to do, or their expectations, what it's like to actually be working with you?
So sometimes people come and think that I'm just going to take their order and go into my workshop and create a new human for them. It doesn't work that way. But with coaching, it's just a lot of people are coming to coaching not just to find love, though. Like that's the big difference. Matchmaking is for single people that are looking to find love, where relationship coaching, it deals with absolutely everything that is in dating and relationships, whether you're having sexual issues, whether you have abandonment wounds, whether you've been cheated on, whether you're going through divorce and you're looking to recover, whether you have trauma, which is preventing you from making you overreactive in your relationship. So it's much more all encompassing.
So, oh, you're going to be on the hot seat. I have some questions I want to ask, and then there's other ones. I'm like, I can't wait. Now, the word relationship, it's
Yeah.
kind of like how would you define the word relationship? And is there any relationships you don't work with?
Yeah. So a relationship is, I was going to say two people coming together, but I guess it can be more than two people coming together. But it's humans coming together to build something meaningful and walk the journey of life together. Within a relationship, though, there's different agreements per every unit or every couple. And so that's unique to every relationship. In terms of what I don't work with, I'm very careful if there's abuse or control issues, just legalities. I don't want to help anybody stay in a relationship that's not healthy for them. So that won't be something I touch. I also won't touch anything where there is suicidal tendencies as well, they need to go see a mental professional before working on their relationship.
So not to simplify what you do, but the movie Hitch. Now, we watched that movie Hitch with Will Smith. You know, I can't remember the term even he is in that movie. Maybe he's a relationship coach, but the kind of things he did for, you know, Kevin James, I can't remember his name on the movie.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
forget
kind of
his name on the movie too.
What's that?
I forget his name on the movie.
I can't remember. And so is that kind of what you do for people, is kind of walk them through, teach them, give them a little smack when they try to go too far from home base so they can go back to the left, to the right sway? You know, is that the kind of thing that you do? I'm just trying to get an image.
Yes, with my dating clients and my get my ex back clients, 100%. That's it to a T. The relationship coaching though, like that's when we're getting more into more trauma, more like deep diving, excavation type of work.
I like it. I like it. Ready for a little hot seat question?
Let's do it.
So a relationship coach is sitting at the table. You're sitting at the table. You have another relationship coach sitting right beside you, 6 feet, social distance, 6 feet away. Yep, got to make sure that's important in the whole picture. And then you have a counselor 6 feet away from them at the table.
Okay.
And what is it, how you approach things that makes you unique, that you believe creates a more successful companionship in a relationship?
In terms of the relationship with my clients?
Yeah, for your coaching styles for getting a relationship more healthy.
I don't sugarcoat anything. I am extremely direct. So I tell you as it is. That being said, I'm also extremely compassionate. So the two together are unique, I guess.
Well, yeah, because you do have to know everything, because a relationship, I can't even remember where I heard it, but I heard it somewhere. Maybe it'll be right, maybe it'll be wrong, but they always say, when you're in a relationship, everything that you do when that person is or isn't around will affect them. So it is also helping people in their personal relationship with themselves to make the relationship with that other person or people better.
Yeah, every relationship starts with your relationship with yourself, right? It's about your own self-worth, your own belief in your own lovability. That's going to affect your choosing partners. And then how you're showing up in that relationship is all about, again, your beliefs around what respect looks like, what agreements you have, your integrity, your values. And a big part of relationships, like actually one of the big reasons that relationships are breaking down is because of social media. So one thing you need to be really aware of is perception. We all make perceptions. Like every single time we have an emotion is simply a messenger that comes to you. It's like the mailman with a gift, and the gift is something needs to change, and it's always either perception or procedure. Your perception is so powerful. It's literally what creates happiness or suffering in every single moment, the meaning that we're placing on things. So you do need to be aware of how your partner can perceive your actions.
You nailed it. Now, social media, it's been coming up so often lately, even has to do with, you know, everybody's a coach of some sort. Everybody's a trainer. Everybody that can draw is a tattoo artist. Everyone that can get 50 likes is now an influencer. Now, it drives me bonkers. But do you find that social media, like you said, is a big problem? What's the biggest problem you find in relationships and social media?
People, this takes up so much of my day.
Oh yeah, are you on that social media? Do you have that little tracker?
No, not mine. I mean, in terms of issues my clients are having, it's so revolved around social media. I can have a client who are going through a breakup and they're in the get my ex back process, constantly social media stalking. He or she just added somebody. Does this mean it's over and we're never going to get back together? Oh my gosh, she just liked a picture. Is she cheating on me? Like perception again, right? And we make clicking a button mean so much, but then it's also at the same time, there are some people that really aren't ready to be in relationships that have some traumas that haven't been resolved. And cheating is super accessible nowadays with social media as well. So it creates a lot of problems.
It's a game changer. And I mean that, and I joke about it all the time. And, you know, everyone says everything is fake on social media till they see something that they want to believe.
Mm-hmm.
Where, you know, it's, and, you know, someone's out of a relationship, and then you can tell more the girls than the guys. And it's only because, as you know, things are getting a little different, girls post more picture than men, period. That's all it comes down to. And you can see their little thirst pictures are coming out, and then all of a sudden they have a boyfriend, then they vanish. And then it's all pictures of their boyfriend, and then they break up with the boyfriend, then those vanish, and then their butts come back to social media. Now, is it sometimes, are people creating an unhealthy relationship with attention they get with social media likes and conversations and DMs, and not seeking, let's say, that kind of companionship with friends or with loved ones? Is that kind of a big mistake you see people making?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, social media is all about really getting validation, but any validation that is external is studio. It's not real, right? But it's all about, there's science on it about the dopamine hits that you get when somebody likes it. And if we're all being honest with ourselves, when any of us post anything, we are looking to get some form of validation, whether it was a motivational quote, a butt, anything, a picture of you and your partner together. We're looking for some form of acceptance from other people. And like I said, like, that's not real. So it's one thing, like social media started out as a way to share with our friends and our family. Now we don't know most of the people that are even on our accounts, or they're public, and you've got 1 million followers and you're just looking for that attention. But that's where you got to do the soul work.
Yeah, it's crazy on, and it's neat. Like, we're not going to talk the whole time about social media, but it is where I find, even when someone gets ready for a show or their transformation and they look the best they ever have, they
Mhm.
throw out as much as they can. Like, I've known people to shoot for a whole year in 3 weeks, and then they post it throughout the time, and then they're overweight and stuff like that, and then they're scared to go in public. And I've
Yeah,
been to shows where, you know, people have been around saying, "Oh my goodness, these people are nothing like I thought," or "Wow, they
yeah,
look so different in person," or
yeah,
"Wow, they're not nice at all." So
yeah.
do you find social media too is also hindering how people interact with each other?
It does. I use it as a strategy for a lot of my clients too, though. You know, when it comes to getting an ex back, for example, or even if you're just dating looking for love, it is a really good tool to be elevating your status and your perceived value as well. So when you aren't able to have those human interactions, you can definitely use it as an asset, but it's something you need to be really careful about as well. Like, we do want to maintain integrity with what we are showcasing, because authenticity is a super attractive quality.
Now, give us the top
Mhm.
three, top two, top five, no more than top five things that people could do better when they're interacting with their social media, or on social media, whether they're single or not. What are some of the best things that people can do to be perceived properly?
So you do want to, it comes from actually what you're doing in your own life first, right? So when I'm using it as a tool, sometimes if somebody's down in the dumps, one way to motivate them is to have them post something every 4 days. That means they actually have to go out and do something. So the most attractive thing, whether you're female or male, is when you see somebody that's in their element and they're passionate about life, and they're just, you see their essence, right? They're passionate, they're curious, they're full of vibrancy, like, it's super hot. So getting back to that place, or getting to that place, and then showcasing it. So that's something that you want to be doing. So living your own life, and then you can highlight it, but don't go over the top. Like, one post every 4 days is a good frequency to be posting. Otherwise, it's pretty obvious you're just looking for that validation from people. So really being aware of your posting frequency as well. And don't go post something that you did one time and you're never going to do again either. You want to be posting something that's actually authentic to who you are as a person. It's like if you go to a heavy metal bar and you meet somebody and it's the first time you've ever gone there. If you didn't like it, I mean, they're going to expect you to keep going back forever, right? So you got to, what you're putting out there, it really has to be genuine to who you are. Don't be doing things to make people like, you want to be high value. And what high value means is you're not better or worse than anybody else. You just know you're great. So when you put something out there, do it in a way, because I see a lot of people cutting people down or coming up across in a really cocky type of way as well. So be high value, but that's independent. There's no comparison to other people in that. So just be aware of that too.
Yeah, it's so hard where, and I try to tell as many people as I can, don't believe what you see on social media, especially for when it's more for physique. Like when they're
Yeah.
looking how they look and how they act. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, hang on. I'm going to do this for the gram. And then they drop down and they do something crazy and it's one and done for those 10 seconds. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, that was the worst thing ever. And that's what they're doing. They're chasing that popularity. But like you said, then people almost expect it, where you see some of these men and women where they've mastered how much steam to put in a bathroom just to hide the only thing that we haven't seen on social media, and then make it look like an accident every week, where that's not, and then you meet them in person and they're shy and they're timid, and then they realize why they can't find a relationship.
Well, this is actually a really good point too. I mean, if you're leading with your sexuality or your bits or your sex appeal, don't. I mean, we're all going to get older and everybody has such amazing internal qualities, and that's what people fall in love with. So find a way to highlight and to express who you really are, not just what you look like.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, social media, it's like back in the day, there was a website that was called Hot or Not. Yeah. And
I
you
remember
post a picture of
that.
yourself, right? And then people would
People
be
were
rating you. And then you're like, and then all of a sudden, you see people are like twos, threes. And I'm like, oh my God, where, beauty is subjective, where anyone that's walking down the street, and it's weird. I had a conversation with a friend a while ago saying, isn't it neat how you can walk down the street and every single person you see that you wouldn't deem as attractive, someone else would say, oh my God, that is the most beautiful person I've ever seen. And I said, don't forget, people are going to look at you and think the same about you because they don't necessarily find your look or persona sexually attractive or something they're going after. And
Yeah.
it was a neat way of looking at things. Is just everyone's beautiful in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's seeking the happiness, whether they're 30, whether they're 70. And it's just, I mean, people got to start changing their mentality. Do you ever get frustrated with people's mentality now that social media is out, or their expectations?
I mean, I don't get frustrated with people because I'm not in the situation with them. My job is to be objective, but sometimes I have to be very direct with people because I can see them get stuck sometimes and I can see them ruminate over certain things, and I've got to give them a big old kick in the rump to move forward from those things.
What is the psychology? Now you've taken a few psychology courses, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're working on some other sides of education, correct?
Yeah, I'm getting my PhD right now in metaphysical sciences.
Now, what is that?
So it is a branch of philosophy. There's 4 branches of philosophy. So metaphysics is one of them. And it's basically, if you were to ask the question about it, what exists and what is it like? So it's a lot about the things that we don't see, like what is the soul? What is love?
How do you describe that? Like, what's the answer to that question? Is there an answer?
I think it's different for everybody, really. I mean, I think when we're talking about ethereal and eternal type of things like that, it's very individual, and I don't know if there's even words for it. I think soul is just our presence that never dies. That's the eternal part of us. Our personality is the human aspects of us that we work on healing throughout our life here.
That's some deep stuff. Do you find that even like when you start getting into the metaphysical, I think I said that right, and you're getting into, now you bring in some psychology, so you're going almost east and west, and you're trying to bring it into the middle, you find that some people that are closed-minded in period, that regardless of how the approach that you try to help them, do you find that they're already blocking off their soul or their energy, Do you find that is one part that people have to learn to open up first in a relationship? Like, what's the first step of knowing you're ready for a relationship?
First step is being able to accept love from people. I mean, a lot of people, like especially if we're looking at online dating right now, a lot of people, might even say the majority of people, are actually emotionally unavailable. They have trauma and they have wounds that they haven't worked through yet. And they have a really hard time accepting love from people because of their childhood and their adolescent experiences. They've been taught that getting close to people hurts. And humans in general will do more to avoid pain than we will to seek pleasure. So it's really about being able to accept a relationship from somebody, accept love, accept that you're worthy of greatness, accept that you're worthy of happiness, accept that you are lovable. When you believe that, then you're in a place that you can be in a relationship.
You ready for this tough one?
Mm.
Now, rumor has it, like you've heard people like, oh, don't worry, it's the 6-month itch, it's the 1-year itch, 4-year itch, and then it's a 7-year itch. And I think that's the last itch you get. Because after 7, you're just like, fuck it, I'm 7 in. And I read somewhere where they say it takes up to 7 years for 2 bodies to actually start moving harmoniously as one. Is there anything to that, or is somebody just trying to, sell some snake oil?
Well, first of all, you don't want that. That's bullshit. That's enmeshment. Enmeshment means you lose your individuality. If you do that, there's no tension anymore. That's actually what breaks relationships. It's the law of thermodynamics, actually. Every single system over time will disorganize unless the right energy is put back into the system. If you leave a car and you don't take care of it, it's going to rust. And a relationship, what happens is it starts off really hot, right? Because there's novelty, because we don't know that much. We're super intrigued about this person. We just want to spend all this time with them, get to know everything about them. But then we get caught up. We're tired at work. We've got the labels, the roles, the responsibilities. And we show up as the version in our relationships of that tired version that just wants to chill on the couch and hang out. We stop getting dressed up for each other. We stop putting effort. We stop creating novel adventures to go on together. And this is when relationships disorganize. So if you're looking at how to keep a relationship vibrant and how to keep desire in a relationship, desire is a paradox. A lot of people think that you want to be one, right? It's all about togetherness, but it's not. Just as important as togetherness is separateness. It is essential, and that's what a lot of couples lose. You get that enmeshment, and then you just don't see that person as that bright, shiny person that you once did at the beginning of the relationship. So just like you need to prioritize your connection rituals with a partner and make sure you have a date night once a week, an overnight date night once a week. I don't care if you have 5 kids. You get babysitters and you make that a priority. Just as important as that is you need to be having a day that is for yourself. You go do your hobby, you go sing, you go to see your friends. Do something away from your partner that lights you up. Those are like essential things to have in order to keep a relationship alive. And that's why the divorce rate's over 50%, is because people stop putting energy back into the system, the right energy.
It's very, very true where, you see, and I always say with women, because majority of my clientele are women. So that's where my basis is, I'm not coming across sexist. I just go based on what I've been exposed to.
Yeah.
Where, men do it too, is as soon as they meet someone, the first thing they do is, oh, you like country? They start liking country. Oh, wow, I saw him like the picture of that girl. Oh, I'm going to go get that outfit. And I call them chameleons. And then they'll meet a new boy or new girl. And all of a sudden they now like, I don't know, rap music, and they're getting tattoos, and they're into rock climbing. Where
right.
is it kind of like they haven't found themselves yet? Like, what is that all about?
So you hear people say all the time when they break up, what happened? And people go, they changed. They didn't change. They just stopped trying to impress you because they got comfortable and then they started being themselves. So all you're doing by doing that is prolonging the inevitable. Be yourself right away. If it doesn't work out, you're saving yourself a year or two.
I'm laughing just because the fact that you said that jogged a memory where I think I might have been, I don't know, 19 or 20. I don't know. I was in my early 20s. And I was talking to one of my buddies and we're, sitting around having a few drinks. I said, man, when people date, you get the honeymoon phase, and then all of a sudden, the girl's always, doing the extra mile. The guy's putting out his best work and he's going broke, whatever he thinks he has to do to impress the woman. I'm like, it should go backwards. You should just sit down. Some people might want to plug your ears now. You should just sit down on the couch in your comfies, let a couple burps out, let a couple farts out, and leave the toilet paper on the ground and some dishes in the sink and say, this is who I am. This is what you're looking forward to.
And this is why I'm the relationship coach. And you're not.
Showing up like, this is my worst. I got holes in my underwear. I got rotten food on the counter. Is this okay? Right? Like it's
Well, I mean, I think this is where it comes back to that relationship that you have with yourself, and maybe you should pick up the toilet paper and buy some new undies.
But it's the comfies. Like it's so funny because I see some people's posts, this is how you think I mow the lawn, or this is how you think I do laundry, and they're dressed up in this outfit, and they're like, this is how it really is. Where it's kind of neat where they're saying perception of social media versus reality. And so we were always joking. They're like, man, I don't think I could do that on the first date. It's just, let it all relax. Can you imagine? Because they're naturally going to think things are getting worse.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between being yourself and just not trying either. And I think even when you're in that relationship for 10 years, you still want to show up like you're putting effort into it, right? Just like your job. If you started going to your office and not going to your office, or just leaving mess everywhere and burping in a meeting, I don't think people are going to like that very much. So you still have to put effort in, right? Like we still have to put effort into ourselves, and we like knowing that relationships do disorganize, you got to put that work in there too. So there's a bit of a difference between just letting it all go and
just giving up. You're
yeah.
like, just throw your Porsche key on the counter and just look homeless. Be like, we still good. We good. But it's so, I mean, you put out a couple good tips there where you say, never forget dating. What are kind of the top 5 tips that you find that people need to focus on in getting ready for a relationship?
Getting ready for a relationship. So basically what I ask my clients is, would you date yourself? And really take an inventory of your own life. Are you funny? Are you intellectual? Are you interesting? Are you passionate? What qualities are you looking for in somebody, and do you possess them as well? If the answer is yes, then you're ready to go and date. If the answer is no, you need to pull up your own socks before you put yourself back out there.
Nice. Now you're back. You're ready. You're back out there. You're in peace with your inner self. You're looking forward. I'm in a relationship. What are the 5 things that you should always practice? We got the date night. No excuses, whether you got 10 kids. But what are some other ones?
All right. So we got date night. That's always really important. No matter what, I see people make up excuses all the time. There is no excuse ever. You need a date night once a week. You also, no excuses to not go see your friends. People get engulfed in their relationship, and it's really unhealthy. So prioritize yourself as well. That's really important. And really also, you have to have fun, play, laugh, chase each other around. Like, this is where your inner child is supposed to come out to play. We spend all day working hard. Your relationship is supposed to be your amusement park. It's supposed to be your safe haven. So make sure that it's that. You also want to be really aware, if we're going to look at like what not to do, there's 4 horsemen of relationships, and 2 big ones.
Wait, hold on. People are going to get their pen out right now. They're like, oh shit, I'm going to have to write down the horsemen. So now they have the pen and paper, y'all. Write this down. There's 4 horsemen of relationship. Some of y'all need to get on the horse alone. Go ahead now.
So
Sorry to interrupt.
Criticizing, right? There's a big difference between complaining and criticizing. Complaining means, I feel angry that you didn't sweep the floor last night. That's fine. You're allowed to express yourself. You're allowed to set your boundaries. You're allowed to say what you feel. But complaining is about somebody's action that they took. What normally happens is criticizing, where you are so stupid, you don't do anything around the house. What is wrong with you? You're completely worthless. That's attacking somebody's character. And that leads into contempt, which is another one of the horsemen, where you are making somebody feel like they're worthless. That's the worst of the four horsemen. The third is defensiveness. So if somebody comes to you and is actually speaking generatively, meaning coming from the I feel place where we can actually form connection and bonding and actually grow through communication, and you're like, it's not me, it's you, right? Or I didn't do that. Like defensiveness, you can't be defensive. There is no constructive communication when we're being defensive. And then the fourth horseman is stonewalling. So this is when you basically just act like your partner's not even there, or you just, yep, okay, whatever. That you can't do that. That makes a relationship die. So you need to be really aware that this is what kills relationships. Also, if you're looking at dynamics of what makes a relationship successful, you want to have 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative one that you have.
Keep going. Okay, give us an example of that. What do you mean? Give us an example. Feed us.
Okay, so you want to be aware of your partner's love languages, for example. Most partners don't actually have the same love language. A love language is the way that we give and we receive love. So there's 5 different languages. There's gifts, acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time, and physical touch. So it's like, if I said something to you right now, Nathan, in Chinese, it could be really sweet, it could be really mean. It wouldn't mean anything to you if you don't speak Chinese, right? And that's what it's like in relationships. So one person is thinking that they're sweeping the floor and cooking dinner and changing the oil tanks, and the other person is like, he's always out doing all these things. He never spends any time with me. He doesn't like me anymore. And we all have these little fuel tanks on us called love tanks. And so if somebody's speaking your love language, it fills your tank up. And if somebody isn't, then it gets down to empty. And this is where we get into where people start looking other places for that validation and that fulfillment. So know what your partner's love language is and really prioritize every day doing some of the actions that are going to fill up their love tank. That's how you create those positive experiences. That way, those are going to overcome any time that you're negative, because we're all human. We're going to slip up. Sometimes we're going to criticize. Sometimes we're just going to be a boob, right? So really just put effort into creating those positive experiences, and then the smaller stuff won't matter.
True. And it's, man, my mom, I got to call my mom after this, because I remember, early 20s. I'd even call her up, but she won't answer the phone right now. She's no in a podcast. But I remember she sent me this book, The 5 Love Languages.
Yeah.
And I was like, 23. And I looked at this. I'm like, what? And I'm like, what is? And I did read it, because she's like, I'm going to make sure you read it. I'm going to ask you questions. And so I did read it. And it's amazing how all things come back to, no matter who you talk to, where even if you ask someone together that's been together 20, 30 years, like their answers, and I always figure, I'm like, they figured out each other's love languages, learned how to compromise, where picking the toilet paper up, like an act of service, like cleaning all the time, may mean nothing to her, but it means the world to me. But to her, telling her that, leave a little note, might mean the world, where I'm like, notes stupid. But it's not about me, it's about how you want to make someone else feel, which is a very hard concept to understand.
I love business. And one of the best business books I ever read was by Keith Cunningham, called The Road Less Stupid. The thing I love about Keith, though, is I had dinner with him at a mastermind in Arizona, and him and his wife, you see them walking together and they just are captivating. You can just see they're glowing with love for each other. And so Keith speaks about why that is. And it's a second marriage. And this is a woman he knew from high school. So when he went on a first date with her, I think it was like 20 years ago or whatnot, they sat down and he said, "What do you want?" And she's like, "What do you mean? What do I want?" And he's like, "Well, what do you want? What do you want to feel in a relationship?" And she thought about it for a minute and she said, "I'd like to feel appreciated and admired." And he said, "Okay, okay. So what would make you feel appreciated and admired?" And I mean, how often do we even think about that, let alone ask somebody else that? And so she started talking. He went and got some napkins and she talked for like 90 minutes straight about all the things that would make her feel appreciated and admired. And the big thing that came out of that was actually a handwritten note every day. And this guy is like one of the most successful businessmen. In all of his experience, he said he would never have guessed the key to this woman's heart was writing her a note every day. And if he forgets by 4, she reminds him. Then he writes a
Yo,
note.
man, I wrote this note. Can you put your name on it? Yep.
But really, we don't have to guess. Talk to your partner, ask them what they want to feel, ask what would make them feel that way. You have the ability to have a clear roadmap to make your relationship work. So use it.
Right, yeah, I mean, now I have two final things to ask you.
Okay.
Now, we've talked about the pre-relationship. We've talked
Mhm.
about the relationship during the relationship. And
Yeah.
now we have the sometimes inevitable post-relationship
Yeah.
where, people are going through and people handle pain. Like anytime you break up with someone, whether you hate them or whether you still love them, it hurts.
Hmm.
And, a lot of people, they sometimes let go of how they behave because they're acting out.
Yeah.
Post-relationship, so in between, the breakup to their next one, what are things that people should be working on to not only let go of the pain before, so don't stockpile things from the past, but what are some things they can start doing for themselves to meet a new relationship fresh?
Right. So you always want to look at the areas of dysfunction within your relationship when it's disorganized. And then you want to ask yourself, has this happened before? If there's a pattern, that means there's something that needs to be worked on because the common denominator in that pattern is you.
Yes, yes. Okay, sorry. Go on. I'll tell you why. Continue on.
Okay. Um, that always has to be looked at. And then you need time to heal. Most people, like I said earlier, will do more to avoid pain than they will to seek pleasure. So a lot of people look to numb the pain, they look to distract themselves, they look to suppress it. And there's a million different suppression strategies that we can use, from just overdoing it at the gym to drinking to jumping into a new relationship. So you do need to take the time to feel the feelings, as awful as they are. That's the only way that you extract the wisdom that's necessary so you can integrate it into your next relationship.
So why I became unglued for a second is because I remember, I think of so many times.
You're a little enthusiastic about that answer.
Well, because it's only because, sometimes self-gratifying, I got to have confirmation that I'm right. But what
Yeah.
it was there's so many times where you talk to guys and girls, and it doesn't matter what it is, and you look at pictures of all of their boyfriends or girlfriends, and they all seem to fit a certain characteristic type. And they're like,
Okay.
oh man, it's never going to, oh, this one, ended the same. Oh, wow, she's just like everyone else. And I said, look, man, you're blaming everybody else on
Mm-hmm.
how these guys or girls are crazy, but there's only one thing that's consistent. And I said, you're the consistent variable that these relationships aren't failing. So either you're maybe seeking the wrong relationship or
What it is probably is, so we're attracted to what's familiar to us. And if you had any dysfunction in your childhood, or if you had one or both parents that weren't, for whatever reasons, able to show up fully for you in a way where you received it as unconditional love and acceptance, then we tend to equate insecurity with love. And then we look for insecurity in our relationships, and it's actually psychobiologically addictive. So if we don't feel insecure in a relationship, we think that we're not in love with them. So we look for relationships where people are emotionally unavailable. That way we're always chasing, or it's toxic. That way there's conflict. So you got to heal those wounds.
conflict. Yeah, I mean, what I got out of it is, once every 10 days, I got to start a fight, get some friction going. I'm gonna, I'm
Well,
gonna leave
that's
the
for
car
you still.
going. I'm gonna drive the car till it's almost out of gas, and then say, "Hey, take the car." Oh yeah, I'm gonna put it in my to-do list every 9 to 11 days. So you always got to keep guessing.
Yeah, and again, this is why I'm the relationship coach.
But yeah, it's very, very neat where, again, a lot of people, they're still dating what their eyes love to see, and they're not ready for, the next step of, that next level of connection. And that's where I'm really, really interested in is, what can people expect from working from you? Is it going to be like you're going to do everything for them, or do you kind of give them programs? It's almost like training where it's going to be tough. This might take you 6 months to a year till you're actually ready to start dating. Do you kind of give them advice when they're ready, or is it kind of on their own?
No, we do a deep dive. My job is to illuminate everything that's standing in the way. And we don't go to the next step until we've completed the first. Some people, people really only want to grow when they're uncomfortable, right? When they hit that pain point, that's when we're more susceptible to doing the work. So thankfully, that's when a lot of my clients come to me and they're ready, like, I've had enough of repeating this pattern. I want to make it stop. And when they come to me, they're ready to do that work. Some people will take longer than others though, because depending on what kind of traumas that we have or what kind of shadows we need to look at within ourselves, it can be really painful, and it can take a bit to be willing to do that and to process that as well. So you got to do the dirty work before you're ready to get into a relationship. Otherwise, that relationship isn't going to work out either.
Man, there's a lot to it. There's a lot. And that's where it is, I find it hard enough sometimes. There's take care of yourself, with time and work and everything else. And there was that movie where they said, have a fish in a plant for what, 2 years or a year or something like that until you're ready for a relationship. That's no advice that I took, but it's kind of neat where people have to learn, some people, they're very selfish. Some people naturally are. And I've thought a few times where I'm like, I just hope you have a kid to help you realize that there's more than just one person in this world. And, sometimes people are like, I had a kid and it changed my life. I've never been more happy.
Yeah.
That doesn't say go have kids, but it's neat where sometimes people have to go through that big
That's the
paradigm.
lesson from this. Everybody go have a kid.
It's COVID, get some COVID babies. I see babies, pregnant ladies. I see strollers. I see puppies everywhere. Don't go do that. But I just, some people, they're always thinking that they're ready, but they haven't got rid of that word I to allow a we kind of thing. Is that something to work on? Is that something for themselves? Is that a big project?
Well, generally when I'm working with somebody, I go through their relationship history and determine exactly what the dysfunction is and what we do need to work on. So one of the things I always do is I use schema therapy to identify what people's life traps are. And a life trap is basically the lens through which we experience the world. It's like if I had 11 different color sunglasses on, red, I see red, blue, I see blue, etc. So I identify exactly what their life traps are, then I know what we need to start healing. So for those people that have an entitlement life trap, that's somebody that we need to learn to take the me out of we.
That quote, I don't know if you stole it or that's something fresh out the press. It might catch on and might not. I don't know if it's going to trend. But speaking of trending, how can people get a hold of you? Because again, to cover everything with relationships, how it works on the spiritual, the physical, the mental side of it, you can't dig deep into it. So how can people get a hold of you and learn more and reach out to you for some added guidance or coaching?
My website is My Love Gurus, and all my social is My Love Gurus as well.